The stars looked the same as they always did, but Captain Kim Tae-ho knew that everything was about to change. He stood on the bridge of the UN Indomitable, watching the dark space ahead of them. His crew worked quietly at their stations, checking weapons and systems one last time. "Captain, we're getting close to the meeting point," said Choi Min-ho from his communications desk. The young officer's hands moved fast over his controls, listening to signals from deep space. Kim Tae-ho nodded. They had been waiting for this day for 10 years. Ever since Earth's scientists found the first alien probe crashed in the Pacific Ocean, everyone knew this moment would come. The aliens would come looking for their lost scout ship. And when they did, Earth needed to be ready. "Any word from Admiral Lee Woo-jin?" Kim Tae-ho asked. "Yes, sir. The Admiral says the other ships are in position. We're the only one they'll see at first." Park Sora looked up from her science station. She was the smartest person on the ship, maybe the smartest person in the whole fleet. "Captain, the enemy ships are bigger than we thought. Much bigger. I'm counting at least 200 vessels." Kim Tae-ho felt his stomach drop. 200 ships was more than Earth's intelligence had expected. But it was too late to change the plan now. "How long until they reach us?" 20 minutes, maybe less. The bridge fell quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. Kim Tae-ho walked over to the big window at the front of the bridge. Out there, invisible in the dark, the largest alien fleet in known history was heading straight for Earth. The plan was simple but dangerous. The Indomitable would meet the aliens alone. To them, it would look like Earth was sending just one small ship to make contact. They would think humans were weak and foolish. They would scan the ship to see what kind of weapons it had. And when they did, they would learn the truth about humanity. "Sir, I'm picking up their signals now," Choi Min-ho said. His voice was tight with worry. "They're talking to each other. The computer is translating it. What are they saying?" They're laughing, sir. They think this is going to be easy. They're calling us soft mammals and another primitive species." Park Sora made an angry sound. If they only knew. Kim Tae-ho understood her anger. For 10 years, Earth's best scientists had worked day and night to prepare for this moment. They had built weapons and ships that pushed the limits of what was possible. They had studied every piece of alien technology they could find. Most importantly, they had learned that these aliens, the Vorthak, had destroyed hundreds of other worlds. The Vorthak were not explorers or traders. They were conquerors. They would arrive at a planet, destroy its defenses, and take everything they wanted. Any people who survived became slaves. Any technology that was useful got stolen. Everything else was destroyed or forgotten. "Captain, visual contact," announced Han Jae-wook from the tactical station, putting it on the main screen. The big screen at the front of the bridge came alive with an image that made everyone take a sharp breath. The alien fleet filled the view like a dark cloud of metal and lights. The ships were huge, each one larger than anything Earth had ever built. Their hulls were black and covered with spikes and weapon ports. They looked like they were built for only one purpose, war. "My God," whispered Park Sora. "How many people live on those ships?" "Sensors show about 50,000 aliens total," Han Jae-wook reported. "Each of their big ships carries around 500 crew members." Kim Tae-ho studied the enemy fleet. Even now, knowing what his own ship could really do, the sight was frightening. If any of Earth's neighbors could see this, they would surrender immediately. The Vorthak had done this same thing to hundreds of worlds. Most had given up without even trying to fight. But the Vorthak had never met humans before. "Sir, they're sending us a message," Choi Min-ho said. "Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was deep and harsh. The translation software made it sound even more threatening. "Small ship of the soft mammals. You will stop your movement and prepare to be destroyed. Your world will serve the Vorthak Empire. Resistance is not permitted." Kim Tae-ho looked around at his crew. These men and women had trained for this moment their whole careers. They knew the plan. They trusted their ship and their weapons. Most importantly, they believed in what they were fighting for. "Open a channel," Kim Tae-ho ordered. "Channel open, sir." Kim Tae-ho spoke clearly and calmly. "This is Captain Kim Tae-ho of the United Earth Navy ship Indomitable. We come in peace to establish first contact with your people. We ask that you stop your advance and talk with us." The alien response came quickly. "You dare to give orders to the Vorthak? Your ignorance will be corrected. Prepare for scanning and destruction." Park Sora smiled for the first time all day. "They're going to scan us, Captain. Just like we hoped they would." All stations prepare for enemy scan, Kim Tae-ho announced. Remember, let them see everything. Don't hide anything. The crew began pressing buttons and flipping switches all over the bridge. To anyone watching, it would look like they were powering down weapons and shields. But Kim Tae-ho knew better. They were actually doing the opposite. They were getting ready to show the Vorthak exactly what kind of enemy they had chosen to fight. Enemy scan beginning now, reported Han Jae-wook. They're using full military sensors. Good. The more they see, the better. Kim Tae-ho watched the tactical display as invisible beams of energy swept over his ship from the alien fleet. The scanners were designed to see through any trick or hiding system. They would detect every weapon, every piece of armor, every power source on the Indomitable. What they found would change everything. Sir, I'm picking up increased chatter from the enemy fleet, Choi Min-ho said. The computer is having trouble keeping up with all the translations. What's the general tone? Confusion, sir, and fear. Perfect. Kim Tae-ho had hoped for exactly this reaction. The Vorthak had just discovered that the small, innocent-looking ship in front of them was actually the most dangerous thing they had ever encountered. And it was just the beginning. Korthovan had been a ship analyst for the Vorthak Empire for over 20 years. He had scanned thousands of vessels from hundreds of different worlds. He thought he had seen everything that could float through space. But as he stared at the readings from the human ship, his hands began to shake. This cannot be right, he whispered to himself. The scanners must be broken. He ran the scan again. The results came back exactly the same. Korthovan felt his breathing become fast and shallow. He needed to tell High Admiral Vexitar immediately, but he could barely believe what he was seeing. The human ship looked small and simple on the outside. It was maybe 300 meters long, with a basic design that seemed crude compared to Vorthak engineering. But the scan showed something completely different hidden beneath that innocent appearance. The hull readings were impossible. The armor was made of compressed matter so dense that it should collapse into a black hole. But somehow the humans had found a way to keep it stable. A direct hit from a Vorthak plasma cannon would do nothing more than scratch the paint. Even worse was the power signature. The scan showed energy output levels that were off the scale. The reactor in that small ship was producing more power than some Vorthak battle stations. It was like the humans had found a way to put a star inside their vessel. Korthovan wiped sweat from his forehead and checked the weapon readings. What he saw made his stomach turn cold. The human ship was carrying devices that the Vorthak had only heard about in ancient legends. Weapons that could bend space itself, cannons that fired streams of pure gravity, missiles that could exist in multiple dimensions at the same time. Analyst Korthovan, the voice of High Admiral Vexitar boomed across the scanner room. What is taking so long with this simple scan? Korthovan gathered the data files and rushed to the bridge. His legs felt weak as he walked through the corridors of the Death's Herald. Other crew members looked at him strangely as he passed. They could see the fear in his eyes. The bridge of the Death's Herald was a place of dark metal and flashing lights. High Admiral Vexitar stood in the center, his tall body covered in the traditional armor of the Vorthak military. His red eyes glowed as he turned to look at the trembling analyst. Well, what did you find? Korthovan held out the datapad with shaking hands. Sir, I think there might be an error with our scanners. The readings I'm getting from the human vessel are unusual. High Admiral Vexitar grabbed the pad and looked at the screen. His confident expression slowly changed to confusion, then to disbelief, then to something that looked like fear. These numbers, he said slowly, they show power levels that are impossible. And these weapon signatures, some of them don't match anything in our databases. That's not the strangest part, sir, Korthovan said. Look at the hull composition reading. The High Admiral scrolled down to the section that showed what the ship was made of. His red eyes grew wide. Compressed matter? But that's theoretical technology. No species has ever been able to build with materials this dense. Sir, there's more. Look at the energy field readings around their ship. High Admiral Vexitar looked at the new data. The human vessel was surrounded by invisible fields that seemed to bend reality itself. Some of the fields were blocking certain types of matter. Others were speeding up or slowing down time in small areas around the ship. This is impossible, High Admiral Vexitar said. A species that has barely left their home planet cannot have technology like this. Back on the Indomitable, Chief Engineer Yoon Da-eun smiled as she watched the alien scanning beams wash over their ship. Her engineering team had spent 3 years building the systems that were now confusing the enemy so badly. They're getting a good look at everything, "Captain," she reported to Kim Tae-ho over the communication system. "The stealth fields are down, the power dampeners are offline, and all our defensive systems are showing their true capabilities." "Excellent work, Chief. How long until they finish their scan?" "About 2 more minutes. After that, they'll know exactly what kind of ship they're dealing with." Yoon Da-eun was proud of what her team had accomplished. The Indomitable looked like a simple exploration vessel on the outside, but inside it was a miracle of human engineering. Every system had been designed to be better than anything the Vorthak had ever built. The armor wasn't just compressed matter. It was compressed matter that had been treated with quantum stabilizers and gravity manipulation fields. A weapon would have to hit with the force of a small star to even damage it. The reactor wasn't just powerful. It was a fusion system that used techniques borrowed from how the sun itself created energy. It could run for 100 years without needing new fuel. The weapons weren't just advanced. They were based on scientific principles that most species never discovered. Some could fire through solid matter as if it wasn't there. Others could hit targets that were thousands of miles away with perfect accuracy. "Captain," called Park So-ra from her science station, "I'm monitoring the alien communications. They're starting to panic." Kim Tae-ho nodded. This was exactly what Earth's military planners had hoped would happen. The Vorthak were used to fighting weak enemies with simple weapons. They had never faced a species that might actually be stronger than them. "What are they saying?" Park So-ra listened to her translation computer for a moment. "The ship that scanned us is reporting to the rest of their fleet. They're saying our technology doesn't make sense. Some of their officers think the scan results must be wrong. And what does their admiral think?" "He's ordering more ships to scan us. They want to make sure the readings are correct." Han Jae-wook looked up from his tactical station. "Captain, 5 more enemy ships are moving closer to us. They're all running active scans now." "Let them look," Kim Tae-ho said. "The more they see, the better they'll understand what they're really up against." The additional scans were even more detailed than the first one. The Vorthak ships used every type of sensor they had. They looked at the Indomitable with regular light, with X-rays, with magnetic field detectors, and with devices that could see into other dimensions. Every scan gave them the same result. The human ship was far more advanced than anything in their empire. On the Death's Herald, High Admiral Vextar stared at the combined scan reports from all 5 ships. The data was consistent across every reading. There was no mistake. "How is this possible?" he asked Korthvan. "Our intelligence said these humans are primitives. They should have simple chemical rockets and basic metal weapons. Sir, maybe our intelligence was wrong. Maybe these humans have been hiding their true capabilities." High Admiral Vextar felt something he had not experienced in decades of conquest. Doubt. For the first time in his career, he was looking at an enemy that might be able to fight back. "Sir," said the communications officer, "the other ship commanders are requesting orders. They want to know if we should continue with the attack plan." High Admiral Vextar looked at the scan data one more time. The human ship was alone, but it carried enough firepower to destroy half his fleet. If the humans had more ships like this one, the invasion of Earth might not be the easy victory he had expected. "Tell all ships to maintain position," he ordered. "We need to learn more about this vessel before we proceed." But in the back of his mind, High Admiral Vextar was beginning to wonder if they had made a terrible mistake by coming to this solar system. Captain Kim Tae-ho could see the confusion spreading through the alien fleet. Their ships had stopped moving forward and were now floating in space like they didn't know what to do next. It was time to tell them the truth about humanity. "Open a channel to the enemy fleet," he ordered. "Full broadcast to all their ships." Choi Min-ho worked at his controls. "Channel open, sir." "They're receiving on all frequencies." Kim Tae-ho straightened his uniform and looked directly into the communication camera. When he spoke, his voice was calm and clear. "High Admiral Vextar of the Vorthak Empire. My name is Captain Kim Tae-ho. I think it's time we had an honest conversation about why you're here and what you've discovered about my ship." There was silence from the alien fleet for several minutes. Then High Admiral Vextar's voice came through the speakers. It sounded different now, less confident than before. "Human captain, your vessel shows technology that should not exist. Explain how a primitive species has built such a ship." Kim Tae-ho smiled. "We're not primitive, Admiral. We just let you think we were. Would you like to know how we really got this technology? Speak." 10 years ago, one of your scout ships crashed on our planet. Your people probably thought it was destroyed in some accident, but we found it at the bottom of our ocean. We studied every piece of it. Kim Tae-ho paused to let that information sink in. He could imagine the panic that was spreading through the Vorthak fleet right now. At first, we were amazed by your technology. It was far ahead of anything we had. But then our scientists made a disturbing discovery. Dr. An Yu-jin, tell the Admiral what you found. Dr. An Yu-jin stepped forward. She was a small woman with gray hair, but her voice was strong and clear. Admiral Vextar, when we examined your scout ship's computer, we found records of over 300 different species. But the strange thing was that your technology was actually a mixture of inventions from all these different worlds. That is not strange, High Admiral Vextar replied. The Vorthak Empire learns from the species we encounter. You mean the species you destroy, Dr. An Yu-jin said. Her voice was cold now. We found the complete records, Admiral. Your empire doesn't just conquer other worlds. You steal their scientific discoveries, then wipe out all evidence that those discoveries ever existed. The communication channel was quiet for a long time. Finally, High Admiral Vextar spoke again. What does this matter to you, humans? Your world will serve the Empire just as the others have. Jung Si-woo, head of Earth's Xenotechnology Division, joined the conversation. That's where you made your mistake, Admiral. You see, humans don't like bullies. When we learned what you had done to all those other species, we decided to do something about it. What could you possibly do? We brought them back. Jung Si-woo gestured to Park So-ra, who began displaying images on the communication screen. The pictures showed laboratories filled with strange devices and scientists working on impossible projects. For 10 years, we've been studying the records from your scout ship. Every species you destroyed left traces in your databases. We found their science, their mathematics, their engineering principles. We learned how they built things and how they solved problems. More images appeared on the screen. These showed the construction of the Indomitable and other human ships. But the designs were clearly influenced by dozens of different alien technologies. The armor on my ship uses compression techniques developed by the Corvin Republic, a species you wiped out 400 years ago, Kim Tae-ho explained. Our reactor design comes from the Thailand Collective, who your empire destroyed 200 years ago. Our weapons are based on research done by the Zephyr Commonwealth, eliminated by the Vorthak just 50 years ago. Bae Hyejin, Earth's chief military strategist, added her own information. We didn't just copy their technology, Admiral. We improved it. We combined the best ideas from all the species you destroyed and made them better. This is impossible, High Admiral Vextar said. Those species were completely eliminated. Their knowledge was erased. You tried to erase it, Bae Hyejin replied, but you kept records for your own use. Every time you stole something from another species, you stored the information in your computers. You created the largest library of scientific knowledge in the galaxy, and then you left it unguarded in a scout ship that crashed on our planet. Kim Tae-ho could hear angry voices speaking in the Vorthak language through the communication channel. The alien commanders were arguing among themselves. There's something else you should know, Admiral, Kim Tae-ho continued. You're not just fighting humans anymore. Every system on my ship carries the legacy of the species you destroyed. In a way, they're all here with us, ready to fight back against the empire that erased them from history. Nam Kyung-soo, the pilot of Earth's most advanced fighter craft, spoke up from his position in the ship's hangar bay. Admiral, the Corvin Republic developed phase shift technology that lets our ships move through solid matter. The Thailand Collective discovered how to manipulate time fields around our vessels. The Zephyr Commonwealth learned to build weapons that can strike targets in multiple dimensions at once. We have all of their knowledge now, Dr. An Yu-jin added, and we've spent 10 years figuring out how to combine it with our own human innovations. The result is technology that's more advanced than anything your empire has ever seen. High Admiral Vextar's voice was quieter when he spoke again. Even if this is true, you have only one ship. The Vorthak Empire has thousands. Kim Tae-ho exchanged glances with his senior officers. It was time for the final revelation. Admiral, who said we only have one ship? Park So-ra began entering commands into her computer. All around the solar system, invisible signals were being sent to hidden human vessels. Ships that had been waiting in the darkness, completely undetectable to Vorthak sensors. You see, we've been preparing for your arrival for 10 years. We knew you would come looking for your lost scout ship eventually. We used that time wisely. One by one, human ships began to appear on the Vorthak sensors. First a few, then dozens, then hundreds. Each one showed the same impossible technology readings as the Indomitable. Every ship in our fleet represents the combined knowledge of the species your empire destroyed, Kim Tae-ho explained. We've built vessels that use Corvin armor, Thylon reactors, Zephyr weapons, and technologies from dozens of other civilizations. The communication channel filled with panicked voices as Vorthak officers reported the appearance of the human fleet to their commanders. But here's the most important thing you need to understand. Admiral, Kim Tae-ho said, we humans have one advantage that none of those other species had. We've been fighting wars against each other for thousands of years. We know how to fight enemies who are as smart and as dangerous as we are. Bae Hee-jin nodded in agreement. Every conflict in human history has taught us something about warfare. Every battle has made us better at surviving against impossible odds. While your empire grew soft from conquering weak enemies, we grew strong from fighting each other. So here's our offer, Admiral, Kim Tae-ho concluded. You can turn your fleet around and leave this system peacefully. Or you can discover firsthand what happens when you fight a species that has the technology of every civilization you've destroyed and the fighting spirit that comes from 10,000 years of human warfare. The communication channel went quiet. Kim Tae-ho knew that High Admiral Vextar was looking at his tactical displays, seeing the hundreds of human ships that had appeared around his fleet. He was probably running calculations about his chances of victory. The answer would not make him happy. High Admiral Vextar stared at the tactical display showing hundreds of human ships surrounding his fleet. His officers were whispering nervously among themselves. Some were suggesting retreat. Others were demanding an immediate attack before the humans could strike first. Silence, he roared. The bridge became quiet instantly. Vextar had not become High Admiral by running away from every difficult battle. Yes, the human technology was impressive, but the Vorthak Empire had conquered the galaxy by being stronger and more ruthless than any enemy they faced. He would not let a single species, no matter how advanced, destroy his reputation. Captain Rexmore, he called to one of his ship commanders through the communication system. Take your vessel and attack the human ship directly in front of us. I want to see how well their defenses actually work. Sir, are you certain? The scan reading suggests their weapons are extremely dangerous. Those are just numbers on a screen, Captain. I want to see what these humans can really do in battle. Captain Rexmore commanded the Vorthak destroyer Payne's Edge. It was a fast, heavily armed ship designed for quick strikes against enemy vessels. If the human defenses were as weak as Vextar suspected, Rexmore would destroy their ship in minutes. All ships, watch and learn, High Admiral Vextar announced to his fleet. We are about to see these humans reveal their true weakness. The Payne's Edge broke away from the main fleet and accelerated toward the Indomitable. Its weapons began charging with a high-pitched whine that all Vorthak warriors knew meant death for their enemies. On the Indomitable's bridge, Han Jae-wook tracked the approaching enemy ship. Captain, one of their destroyers is coming straight at us. Weapons are charging, Kim Tae-ho nodded calmly. Signal the UN Retribution. Tell Commander Oh Dong-hyun that he has permission to demonstrate our defensive capabilities. The UN Retribution was positioned near the Indomitable, but the Vorthak hadn't paid much attention to it. It was smaller than the flagship and looked even less threatening. That was exactly what Commander Oh Dong-hyun had wanted them to think. Retribution acknowledges, sir. Commander Oh says he's ready to show the enemy what human engineering can do. Nam Kyung-soo was already in his fighter craft in the Indomitable's hangar bay. Captain, requesting permission to launch. I'd like to give these aliens a close look at our flight technology. Permission granted, Lieutenant. Show them something they've never seen before. Nam Kyung-soo's fighter launched from the Indomitable just as the Payne's Edge opened fire. The Vorthak ship fired 3 different types of weapons at once. Plasma cannons that could melt through any known armor, particle beams that destroyed targets at the atomic level, and gravity missiles that crushed their targets from the inside out. It was enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The weapons struck the UN Retribution directly. For a moment, the small human ship disappeared in a cloud of energy and explosive fire. The Vorthak officers on the Payne's Edge cheered in victory. Then the smoke cleared and the Retribution was still there. Not only was it undamaged, but its hull wasn't even scratched. Impossible, whispered Captain Rexmore. Nothing can survive that kind of attack. Commander Oh Dong-hyun opened a communication channel to the Payne's Edge. Thank you for the demonstration, Captain. Now let me show you what real firepower looks like. The Retribution fired a single shot from its main weapon. It wasn't a plasma beam or a particle cannon. It was something the Vorthak had never seen before. A concentrated stream of manipulated spacetime that could unmake the very atoms that held matter together. The weapon struck the pane's edge in the center of its hull. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the Vorthak ship began to disappear. Not explode, not burn, not break apart. It simply ceased to exist as if it had never been built in the first place. The space where the pane's edge had been was now completely empty. Not even debris remained. High Admiral Vextar stared at the empty space on his display. What happened to Rexmoor's ship? His science officer checked the readings 3 times before answering. Sir, according to our sensors, that ship never existed. There's no trace of it anywhere. It's as if it was completely removed from reality itself. While the Vorthak fleet was still trying to understand what had happened to the Pane's Edge, Nam Kyung-soo's fighter was demonstrating capabilities that made their best pilots look like beginners. The small human craft moved through space in ways that violated every rule of physics the Vorthak knew. It would disappear from one location and instantly appear somewhere else. It flew straight through the armor of Vorthak ships as if they were made of air. It moved so fast that it seemed to be in several places at the same time. Sir, the human fighter is using phase shift technology, reported the tactical officer on Vextar's flagship. It's moving through dimensions we can't even detect. Can we target it? No, sir. Every time we lock weapons on it, the craft shifts into a different phase of reality. Our weapons can't hit something that doesn't exist in our dimension. Nam Kyung-soo wasn't just showing off his ship's abilities. He was gathering intelligence on the Vorthak fleet's defensive systems. His fighter's sensors were recording everything about their armor, weapons, and shield technology. Captain Kim, he reported back to the Indomitable, their ships are exactly what we expected. They're built to fight enemies with technology similar to their own. They have no defenses against weapons that can phase shift or manipulate time. Kim Mi-young, the strategic AI coordinator, was processing all the information from Nam Kyung-soo's reconnaissance flight. Her computer systems were learning the weaknesses in every Vorthak vessel. Captain, the AI has identified critical points on every enemy ship, she reported. We can disable their entire fleet without destroying them if that's what you want to do. Kim Tae-ho considered this option. Destroying the Vorthak fleet would send a clear message, but it would also make the Empire more likely to send even larger fleets to Earth. Disabling them might be a better choice. Do it, he decided. Show them that we can take apart their fleet whenever we choose. What happened next was like watching a carefully choreographed dance. Human ships throughout the solar system began firing precisely targeted shots at the Vorthak fleet. But instead of trying to destroy the enemy vessels, they were surgically removing specific systems. One shot would disable a ship's weapons. Another would shut down its engines. A third would knock out its communications. Within minutes, the entire Vorthak fleet was floating helplessly in space. Sir, reported Vextar's communications officer, all our ships are reporting the same thing. Their weapons are offline, engines are dead, and most of their systems have been shut down, but none of the ships have been destroyed. High Admiral Vextar looked around his bridge. Emergency lights were flashing and most of his control panels were dark. His mighty fleet, which had conquered hundreds of worlds, had been defeated in less than 5 minutes. How many casualties? He asked. None, sir. The humans targeted our systems, not our crew. Everyone is alive. Vextar realized that this was perhaps the most frightening thing of all. The humans had just proven that they could destroy his entire fleet anytime they wanted to, but instead they had chosen to show mercy. It meant they were not just more advanced than the Vorthak Empire. They were also more civilized. High Admiral Vextar sat in his command chair, staring at the dead controls of his flagship. Around him, his officers worked frantically to restore power to their systems, but every attempt failed. The humans had done something to their technology that made it impossible to repair. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. It's being sent directly to every ship at the same time. Put it through. The main screen flickered to life, showing not Captain Kim Tae-ho, but an older human man in a different uniform. This man had the bearing of someone used to commanding entire fleets. I am Admiral Lee Woo-jin of the United Earth Navy, the man said. High Admiral Vextar, I believe it's time we discuss the future of your empire. Vextar felt his throat go dry. What do you want, human? I want you to understand something very important. What you just witnessed was not our full military capability. It was barely a demonstration. Admiral Lee gestured, and the screen split to show images from across the galaxy. Vextar recognized the locations immediately. Major Vorthak military bases, industrial worlds, and the capital planet of the Empire itself. These images are being taken right now by human vessels that have been in position around your worlds for the past 3 years, Admiral Lee continued. We've been watching you, learning about you and preparing for this day. Vexitar could see human ships in orbit around every important Vorthak planet. Ships that were somehow invisible to all their sensors and defense systems. How is this possible? He whispered. The same way everything else has been possible, Admiral. We learned from the species you destroyed. The Phantom Collective, eliminated by your empire 600 years ago, developed perfect stealth technology. The Deep Wanderers, wiped out 400 years ago, created ships that could travel faster than your fastest vessels. More images appeared on the screen. These showed massive human ships emerging from hiding places throughout Vorthak space. Each one was larger and more advanced than anything in the Empire's fleet. The UN Liberator is currently in orbit around your capital world, Admiral Lee said. Captain Seo Junho has been waiting there for 2 days, completely undetected by your planetary defense systems. A new voice joined the conversation. Hi, Admiral Vextar, this is Captain Seo Junho. I'm looking down at your government buildings right now. Your Emperor is in a meeting with his military council. They're discussing how to respond to your situation out here. Vextar felt his world spinning out of control. What do you want from us? Admiral Lee's expression became serious. We want you to make a choice, Admiral. The Vorthak Empire can continue to exist, but not as conquerors. You can join the new galactic community we're building, or you can be removed from power entirely. And if we refuse, then you'll discover what happens when you fight a species that remembers every civilization you've destroyed. The screen changed again, this time showing a human woman with kind eyes but a determined expression. I'm Park Jin-ae of Earth's Diplomatic Corps, she said. Admiral, we don't want to destroy your people. We want to give them a chance to be part of something better. What do you mean? For centuries, your empire has grown strong by stealing from other species, and then erasing their cultures. But strength built on destruction never lasts. We're offering you a chance to build strength through cooperation instead. Another human appeared on the screen. I'm Ko Yun Seo, head of the Restoration Project. Admiral, we're not just here to defeat your empire. We're here to bring back everything it destroyed. Ko Yun Seo gestured, and the display showed something that made Vextar's eyes widen in shock. Throughout the galaxy, on worlds that had been stripped bare by Vorthak conquest, new cities were being built. Forests were growing where there had been only wasteland. Oceans were filling valleys that had been empty for centuries. Every species your empire eliminated left genetic samples in your databases. We've been using that information to restore their homeworlds. Plants, animals, even complete ecosystems are being brought back to life. This is impossible, Vextar said. Those species are extinct, gone forever. Nothing is gone forever if someone remembers it, Ko Yun Seo replied. And humans never forget. Park Jin-ae took over the conversation again. Here's what we're offering your empire, Admiral. Surrender peacefully, and your people can be part of the restoration. Help us rebuild what was destroyed, and you'll have a place in the new galactic community. And if we refuse? Admiral Lee's voice became cold. Then you'll be treated exactly the way you treated every other species that refused to surrender to your empire. The threat hung in the air like a dark cloud. Vextar knew exactly what that meant. The Vorthak Empire never showed mercy to enemies who refused to submit. However, Park Jin-ae continued, we're not like your empire. We believe in giving people choices. Your soldiers and citizens will be allowed to decide for themselves whether they want to be part of the new community or not. The screen split once more, this time showing broadcasts being transmitted to every Vorthak world simultaneously. Human voices speaking in the Vorthak language were explaining the situation to ordinary citizens. They were being told about the crimes their government had committed and offered a chance to help make things right. You're turning our own people against us, Vextar said. We're giving them the truth, Admiral Lee replied, something your government has never done. Captain Kim Tae-ho's voice joined the conversation from his position on the Indomitable. Admiral Vextar, your scan of my ship started something that can't be stopped now. You've seen that we have the technology to defeat your empire, but more importantly, you've learned that we have the will to use it. What happens to me? Vextar asked quietly. That depends on you, Park Jin-ae answered. Help us rebuild what your empire destroyed and you can have a future. Continue to fight for the old ways, and you'll share the fate of every other tyrant who refused to change. Vextar looked around his bridge at the faces of his officers. He could see that many of them were no longer looking at him with respect. Some looked afraid. Others looked angry. A few looked like they were already considering surrendering to the humans. I need time to consider your offer, he said finally. You have 1 hour, Admiral Lee replied. After that, we'll assume you've chosen to fight. And we'll respond accordingly. The transmission ended, leaving Vextar alone with his thoughts and his disabled fleet. Around the galaxy, on every Vorthak world, people were watching the same broadcast and making their own decisions. Many were choosing to surrender immediately and join the human restoration efforts. Others were preparing to fight to defend the empire they had served all their lives. But everyone could see the truth now. The age of the Vorthak Empire was ending. A new chapter in galactic history was beginning, and humanity would be writing the first page. In the end, Vextar made the only choice that made sense. 37 minutes after the ultimatum was delivered, he sent a message to the human fleet. Admiral Lee Woo-jin, this is High Admiral Vextar. The Vorthak fleet surrenders unconditionally. We accept your terms and request permission to help with the restoration efforts. The response came immediately from Captain Kim Tae-ho. Welcome to the new galaxy, Admiral. I think you're going to find it's a much better place than the one your empire created. As power slowly returned to the Vorthak ships, their crews could see human vessels approaching to provide assistance. The war was over before it had really begun. Now the work of healing the galaxy could start. And somewhere in the depths of space, the spirits of every civilization the Vorthak had destroyed could finally rest in peace, knowing that their legacy lived on in the humans who had refused to let them be forgotten.